Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon.
Are you still eating? Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon.
We are back in the room. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. I am Teresa Holmes, Club President. Today's meeting is sponsored by the members of the Scotch Whiskey Lou Harned Society Fellowship Group. I said to Lou, I wish I could be this famous. Thank you for sponsoring today's luncheon. As we open today's meeting, we will start with the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, I should get started, shouldn't I? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, our guest will be introduced by Melanie Ramey. She's here somewhere. Oh, there she is.
Well, we do have some guests today, and it's really a pleasure to welcome them. And all of you are almost like guests because we haven't seen each other in so long. But I would like to introduce the ones who are not members already. First of all, we have, of course, the honoree today is Lou Harned, and we have his daughter, Deb Ondale. Would you all stand when I call your name? Deb Ondale, and her husband, Todd Ondale, who is also a visiting Rotarian. And this is Lou's daughter and son-in-law. Then we also have a very special guest today, too. We have, let's see, what's her name here? Oh, we have Connie Thompson, who is also a guest of Bill Zeman. We have Paula Gilbeck, who is a guest of the program committee. We have Scott Kammer, who is a guest of Beth Prohaska. And we have Robert Magus, who is also a guest of Beth Prohaska. I would also say that we have one guest who I think is going to be a little late today. She is Yuma Puta, and she is a guest of Aurelie Estrada, who is becoming a new member. And I think this is just wonderful that we have a new member who's already bringing guests to the club. And so that's something that we all ought to be doing more of. While I'm here, I'm going to take a moment of privilege to say that, as you know, I have been arranging the sponsorships of the luncheons. And this has been going great, and I really appreciate the help that all of you have given. However, some of you haven't been so helpful. These are those of you who have not responded to my emails. So I am making a list. The list has about 8 names on it right now. And at the end of all of this, I'm sending it into the State Journal to be put in the obituary column. Because I figure if your hands aren't working, your brain must also be dead. And so this is what's happened to you. So to keep you from being on this list, and maybe to get your name removed from it, if you will please respond to my email when I write to you. I don't care if you don't sponsor, but just say, no thanks, Melanie, I'm passing this time, and I won't sit around waiting fervently to hear from you. And in return, I will say thank you very much.
Respond to an email or bring Melanie back to the podium. All right, I just wanted to make a note that today's meeting is live and live streamed. So we have members who are online as well attending today's meeting. All right, Rotarians, we have 7 new members to introduce to you today. First, will Josh Anderson please stand with his sponsor? And Paul Hoffman? There he is, yes. Josh has been loaned the classification of Business Services, Supplies, and Technology, and is the director of Sondermind, a virtual healthcare system located in Denver, Colorado. He was born in Denver and came to Madison this past summer with his wife, Sarah Noir, and their 2 children, Elliot and Greta. They now make their home on Van Buren Street. Josh holds a bachelor's degree in English from Greenville University and an MBA degree from the University of Denver. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 2002 until 2007 with his 2 wartime deployments with a Special Operations Unit. Josh is a recipient of the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal and Marine of the Quarter designation. Josh is also a former board member of the VFW Post 1 Foundation and is founder of the We Work Veterans in Residence program. He enjoys cycling, boating, music, reading, watching, and playing sports. Josh, please remain standing, and will Matt Boatwright Simon please stand with your sponsor, Wes Sparkman. Matt has been loaned the classification Communications and is the founder and creative director for Boatwright Simon Picture and Sound, which specializes in storytelling and using a variety of tools that include short form and long form motion picture narratives. He is a multiple award-winning TV, commercial, and film director, as well as screenwriter, playwright, producer, and editor. He holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and was a member of the UW-Madison's National Championship rowing team. Matt's also a member of the Motion Picture Editors Guild. He enjoys basketball, football, and gardening. Josh and Matt, please remain standing. And will Rebecca Dopart please stand with your sponsors, Ron Luskin and John Sims. Rebecca has been loaned the classification of Foundations and is president of the Unity Point Health Meritor Foundation. She is a native of Edgerton and now lives on Lynn Trail in Oregon. She has a son and a daughter. Rebecca holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communications, as well as an MBA degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She was a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer and was an ESL teacher in Blazowa, Poland. Rebecca also served as a multicultural awareness trainer for UW Extension. She is also a life group leader for divorced women and worships arts volunteer at Black Hawk Church. Rebecca is a singer-songwriter and enjoys performing and Bible studies. Rebecca, please remain standing, and will Susie Drazen please stand with your sponsor, Scott Forrester. Susie has been loaned the classification of Community Services and is Director of Development for the Menorah Park of Central New York, a continuum of care community. She was born in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and came to Madison in 2019 from Syracuse, New York. Susie is widowed and lives on Mail Drive and has 2 adult children. She holds a bachelor's degree in secondary education and social studies from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a master's degree in Jewish education and from the Jewish Theological Seminary. Susie's favorite pastimes include reading, movies, and music. Susie, please remain standing. And will Ariella Estrada please stand with your sponsors, Ron Luskin and Anthony Gray. Ariella has been loaned the classification of Community Services and is the Executive Director of Affordable Dental Care. She will be our speaker on March 2nd about the importance of dental health care, and we look forward to hearing from her on this important topic. She was born in Nayarit, Mexico, and grew up in Los Angeles, California. And now, Ariella makes her home on Slate Drive here in Madison with her son, Chandler. She holds a bachelor's degree in applied studies with an emphasis in human development from the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. And she earned a master's degree with specialization in community development from the UW of Madison this year. She serves on the board of Reuben for Kids, where she participates on its scholarship search committee. Her favorite pastimes include spending her time with her son, cooking, and biking. Please remain standing, Ariella, and will Dr. Carlton Jenkins and his sponsor, Martha Vikulik Austin, please stand. Nelson Cummings is also a sponsor for Dr. Jenkins. Carlton has been loaned the classification of education and is superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District. He is a former Rotarian at Golden Valley, Minnesota, and Beloit, Wisconsin. Originally from Phoenix City, Alabama, he now makes his home on Reading Drive in Verona with his wife, Lisa. They have one grown daughter. He holds a bachelor's degree in health and physical education from Mississippi Valley State University, a SWAC school. Carlton, I'm from a SWAC school, my undergrad, yes. Carlton also holds a master's in educational administration and a doctorate degree in philosophy from University of Wisconsin-Madison. Carlton enjoys playing and learning from his 2-year-old grandson. Please remain standing, Dr. Jenkins, and will Marcio Sierra Jr. and his sponsor, George Hidalgo, please stand. Marcio has been loaned the classification of religion and is president and senior pastor of Lighthouse Church and Schools. He was born in Honduras. Marcio and his wife, Tia, live on Friendship Lane in Middleton and have 2 teenagers. Marcio holds a bachelor's degree in international relations and political science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a master's of divinity degree from Regent University. In 2020, he started a COVID-19 fund called Psalm 46 Fund and raised $500,000, which was used to help over 10,000 people in our community who were affected by the pandemic, the majority of whom were African American and Hispanic descent. Last year, under Marcio's leadership, Lighthouse Christian Schools and Church received the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce's recognition of Community Champion for their work in our community. He enjoys hiking, biking, and watching football. Rotarians and guests, please join me in welcoming our new members and thanking their sponsors for their connecting to them to our club. The pinning is an important part. And now the president's hook is coming, Martha. We are continuing a series of reports about new committee structures that started as of July 1st. As a reminder, shown on the screen is our new organizational chart. As you can see, this new structure organizes our committees under 5 team leaders so that like committees within a team are connecting with one another and are more aware of what the other committees are doing. Today, we are going to hear from Mark Clear, who is our meeting experience team leader. Mark is going to tell us what the meeting experience team has been doing so far this Rotary year. Mark?
Thank you, President Teresa. It's wonderful to see you all today. I hope you're all having a good meeting experience right now, because the meeting experience team is all about your meeting experience, and right now your meeting experience is me. So I'm going to try to channel my friend Jason Ilstrup and be both brief and informative. So the meeting experience team, as you saw from the chart, which I know you all have memorized anyway, consists primarily of the music committee, the program committee, and the meeting assistance team. And this is all of the people that make our meeting experience both successful and functional, some of which is very in front of the scenes, like the programs and the music, some of which is behind the scenes, folks who handle the button box and the cash box, like I was doing today. I'm doing double duty, and all the things that make our meeting successful, videotaping, things like that. So meeting experience, we know from the surveys that we've done, can be a key factor in retaining members in our club. We also know that meeting experience, if it doesn't go well, can be a key factor in the reasons that people leave our club. It's a lot of the way that people engage with our club, although there are also many members of the club that don't necessarily engage much in the meeting experience, and they interface with our club in other ways. There's a wide variation on views about the meeting experience and on some of our traditions. If you were to talk to some of our members, you'd find that there's a wide variety of opinions about the music and about whether the music is a good idea or a bad idea, and also a wide variation in views on some of our other traditions, like people standing in front of you and talking and keeping you from either your food or the program. The meeting experience team has also been looking at some recent challenges that we have in our club, and we've had some interesting discussions about things like music selections, because there are a lot of opinions on that. We've talked a lot about the Q&A process at our meetings and whether that goes well or does not go well. And we encourage you to get involved, and that can be in many ways. One of the ways you can get involved is by suggesting a program. Probably all of you know, and if not, you will in a second, that there is a program suggestion form on the club website which you can use to submit an idea for a program, and it could come from a program that you've seen or a speaker that you've heard that has been very interesting or really connected with you, or it could be something from your own life that that you've experienced that you think would be good for programs. You should know that the program committee schedules about 4 to 5 months in advance, so that even if you have a great idea for a program, it might be a while before that program makes it to the podium. So your program suggestions are welcome, and also you have all seen the new leader interviews that have been done as part of our meetings on about a monthly basis, and we could use your suggestions on new leaders in town that we should interview. They could be potential members, well, they're definitely potential members of our club, but also just people who are new in leadership positions who would be interesting to hear from, and you can send those suggestions to the office email. So that's what I have to tell you about the meeting experience team. Thank you all for your attention, and enjoy your meeting experience.
Thank you for your report, Mark. Okay, Rotarians, I will donate $50 to the Madison Rotary Foundation for any Rotarian in this room, or the first Rotarian who is not a committee chair, who can tell us the 5 team leaders and their teams. Whoa, that's why we're doing this segment. Paul Hoffman, you can't do it? Can you do it as VP? Paul can do it. He's here. Sandy. Sandy. Mary. Duh. He's in the room. All right, good effort. I'll still donate. All right. Thank you again for your report. And this is why we're doing this series. So I made the joke at the beginning of my year that because I led diversity, equity, and inclusion, that I wasn't the DEI president, I was the change agent president. So we've had a lot of governance. We've had a lot of change in our club over the past year, all for the great reasons why we're doing the things that we're doing in the room throughout the year and in our community. So thank you, everyone, for that support. All right, on to my Did You Know segment. I want to highlight the administration of our Rotary Club today. Did you know that our Rotary Club has had just 5 individuals lead our club's administration during our 108th year history of a club? Only 5 people. And I'm mentioning this because Pat Jenkins, our executive director, who's probably hiding in the hallway because she knows I'm talking about her. She's not hiding. She's with us. Pat Jenkins just celebrated 30 years, her 30-year anniversary as our club's executive director. And 40 years on our club staff. There are plans for a celebration a little later in the year, or before the end of the Rotary year, but in a few months, basically, after the pandemic lessens. And we're sure that we're going to be able to meet, right? And we'll hear some more details about that in the spring. But congratulations to Pat on this milestone anniversary. And I would also like to note that Jane Costner, who is sitting next to Pat, is our executive assistant who just celebrated her 17th year on our staff last month. And then lastly, Sharon Mimetz, who's on vacation, our part-time office assistant, will be celebrating her 8th year as a member of our staff in July. Thank you, Pat, Sharon, and Jane. I have a few announcements today. It is great to be back in person, as we all can see. And so I wanted to note that as we start moving back to in-person meetings, today we're having plated meals and limited singing because of the precautions that we're taking, but we will continue to monitor the COVID case numbers, and we'll be moving back to the buffet meal and additional singing with face masks very soon. That's our hope. Also, I have an important note about next week's meeting. On occasion, we do have a speaker who does not want to be video recorded. And so next week's speaker, February 16th, has requested that we do not record his presentation. So that means that we will not be live streaming our meeting next week, and there won't be a video recording available after the meeting takes place. Our Madison Rotary Foundation trustee nominees. At this time each year, we announce the names of the nominees for our Madison Rotary Foundation Board of Trustees. This year's nominees for 4-year terms on the Madison Rotary Foundation Board, beginning in July 1st, are, as you see, Anita Muhammad, Dr. Willie Larkin, and Alex Kisquierdo. The election of these new trustees will take place at our annual meeting of the Madison Rotary Foundation just before our regular luncheon on Wednesday, March 9th. And as prescribed by the foundation bylaws, any 10 members of the Madison Rotary Club may submit in writing by 10 signed members additional names or names to be presented to the foundation secretary, Pat Jenkins, and sent to our Rotary office for inclusion on the ballot. All names must be submitted prior to March 1st so that they would be included on the ballot. Braver Angels workshop is still coming. For interested Rotarians, it will take place at the end of the month, as you see on the board. This is in follow-up to a program that we had a few months ago in December. Our hope is that while political polarization in the United States is at an all-time high, Braver Angel workshops can provide the ability of the Blues and the Reds to work together with constructive conversation. The cost to attend the one all-day session scheduled for February 25th and February 26th at Holy Wisdom Monastery is $30, which covers the room rental and lunch fees. Guests are also welcome, and there was also a link in this morning's email, the Rotary email, if you'd like to sign up. We have some flyers also at the back of the room at the table. Lastly, Rotarians. Phishing emails are on the rise and have increased during COVID. And so a number of our members have been receiving these emails, including some that purport that they seem to be from our Rotary office or some of our Rotary members. Good rule of thumb, because these emails are not, is to be sure you're looking closely at the sender's email address before you open any links included in your emails. Birthdays. We have birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor or wisdom that complements our Rotary mission. We also encourage our members to make an age-appropriate gift to the Madison Rotary Foundation, rounded up to $100 for our club's Synergy Scholarship Fund. Are we ready? Rotarians, if you were in the room when I call your name, please stand. February 6th, Dana Corbett. February 11th, Don Snyder. February 12th, past President Dick Olson. February 12th, Leslie Overton. February 12th, Floyd Rose. February 12th, past President Bob Sorge, who shares the following quote from Helen Keller. "Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence." Thanks to our celebrants for their contributions to the Madison Rotary Foundation. Please join me, Rotarians and guests, in wishing them a happy birthday with Elaine Mishler on the keyboard. I hope they warned you about the singing. All right, I have a few members in the news. Kurt Brink was quoted in an article titled, Developer Revises Biggest Piece of Full Block Project on West Washington Avenue, Wisconsin State Journal, February 2nd. Dawn Krim was interviewed on Wisconsin Public Radio about her role as Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, Wisconsin Public Radio, February 7th. Renee Moe, who's in the room, I think, was pictured and quoted in an article titled American Family Insurance Pledges $5 million to United Way of Dane County. It was on NBC, Wisconsin State Journal, and she was also interviewed in the Wisconsin Public Radio about United Way's 211 program. And finally, James Tye was quoted in an article titled What Makes Us Special? Frozen Assets Festival Celebrates Madison Lakes and Icy Fun, madison.com. All right, on to our program. Today's speaker is Dr. James Schmidt, who has served as Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire since 2013 of July. During his tenure, UW-Eau Claire has been ranked among the top 10 regional public universities in the Midwest by U.S. News. It was named the top master's level university for excellence in undergraduate research by the Council for Undergraduate Research in 2016 and is currently the only master's level university in Wisconsin among the top 20 nationally for student participation in study abroad. Chancellor Schmidt holds a doctorate in educational policy and administration from the University of Minnesota, a master's degree in business administration from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and a bachelor's degree in political science from Winona State University. Today, he is going to talk with us about the status of UW campuses post-COVID. We look forward to your presentation, Chancellor Schmidt, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thank you for speaking to us today. I would like to mention, Rotarians, that we will have a Q&A session, time aligned, at the end of the speaker's presentation, and I will be monitoring the chat over there in the corner, as well as we'll be taking questions from the floor. Rotarians and guests, please welcome Dr. Schmidt to our podium.
Well, good afternoon. This is kind of a fun crowd. I don't know. Do you take Rotarians out of the Eau Claire region to join this club? I don't know, but after hearing about all the new ones, I don't know if I'd measure up to the kind of caliber of folks you tend to get at this place. So it is my indeed pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and I want to thank Teresa Holmes for that wonderful introduction. You know, I had the privilege of working with one-year members, Regina Milner, for many years, as she served as a UW system regent and, of course, later as region president. And I must say, she is a force of nature. So when she asked if I would speak with you today about UW-Eau Claire and the UW system and what we're doing to combat COVID, I knew the answer had to be yes. You know, you just don't say no to Regina. Actually, I'm thrilled to be here with you today, representing more than 200,000 faculty, staff, and students of the UW system, because we have an incredible story to tell about how we've tackled the pandemic and contributed more broadly to the health of the state of Wisconsin. You know, back in November when Regina asked me to speak, the title of the presentation, I think it still says it on there, is The Status of UW-Eau Claire Post-COVID-19. And here we sit, spread out, wearing masks and other things. It does sound kind of naive, doesn't it? We're definitely not post-COVID-19 yet, although I'm hopeful that the Omicron variant seems to be losing some of its strength and the numbers are going in the right direction. But in fact, that great philosopher Yogi Berra said, when looking at COVID right now, it's deja vu all over again. So at UW-Eau Claire, we have been fully back in person. Our classes are full, our dormitories are full, and it's only possible because of the tremendous support of our students, faculty, and staff. And I'm proud to say that today, without a vaccine mandate, we have 84% of our 10,000 students have been vaccinated, and an amazing 95% of our faculty and staff have been vaccinated. This semester, we're seeing few students, very few students, who are testing positive, even with Omicron spreading in the Midwest. And most of them are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms. We are committed to continuing to offer in-person learning at UW-Eau Claire and across the UW system as a whole. But you know, we can't keep our campuses open alone. It has taken the power of partnerships. And that's a theme that I'd like to really drive home today. First of all, is that the UW system is a partner in Wisconsin's future. It is the epitome of what it means to have the Wisconsin idea, to reach across to every corner of the state. And it's partnerships that have not only contributed to our campuses being open, but to our communities being healthier. That's what happens when I go off script. So I'm very proud of the work that UW-Eau Claire has done to make that possible. But I do have to do a little commercial on UW-Eau Claire. I can't come all the way to Madison without filling you in a little bit about it. And this is going to be my attempt at being brief. So for those of you in the audience, how many of you are Blue Golds? Okay, we have to do better. Oh, well, over in the corner. But we have to do better than that in the future, the next time I come back to speak. We'll have to make your son, okay, how many have a family member who's a Blue Gold? Okay, now we're talking. See, the family members, you know, not everyone can get into UW-Eau Claire, as I like to say. So for those of you who haven't been to our campus, we can confidently claim, as it's been claimed for more than 100 years, that we are Wisconsin's most beautiful campus. We're nestled near the confluence of the Eau Claire and Chippewa rivers. Our university encompasses a park-like setting within the Eau Claire area. The university has a presence in our downtown with a brand new performing arts center that if you haven't been to the Pablo Arts Center yet, do come and see a performance there. We have a campus in beautiful Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and we have a nursing center at Marshfield, Wisconsin, connected to Marshfield Health System. Our residence halls performing arts center reach us into the community. We have athletic facilities spread throughout our community where we partner and share. We actually don't own most of our athletic facilities. We partner with the YMCA, the city of Eau Claire, and we in turn make our facilities available to them as well. One of the crown jewels that we will begin construction on in the spring is a new events complex that is being funded almost entirely by John and Carolyn Sonnentag. They are alumni who last year, just a few months ago, announced a record-breaking $70 million gift to the university. County Materials, if you want to give a little applause back to them. I know they have facilities in Madison and across the state. But $70 million is absolutely an all-time record in the state of Wisconsin for a regional public university and remains in the top 10 of those gifts nationwide for that kind of support. So we're blessed to have very loyal alums who've had great experiences. Academically, as was mentioned in the introduction, UW-Eau Claire has been ranked in the top 10 institutions in the Midwest for more than 25 years by U.S. News and World Report. Our online MBA consortium, which partner with 2 other UW schools, has been ranked by U.S. News and World Report in the top 10 in the country. We're competing with Stanford and Harvard, thank you very much. Top 10 in the country for many, many years. So if those of you in your organizations, if you have young professionals you'd like to encourage, you should have them check out our online MBA program. And it was mentioned that we are ranked number one. Number one in the country is pretty good among all master's level schools for undergraduate research, which is something more and more people are finding about. Undergraduate research with a faculty member. More than half of our students have that experience before they graduate. This is undergraduate research outside of the curriculum. This is the opportunity to work side by side with our faculty members, exploring and creating new knowledge. It is because of that reputation that we have that we signed only the 2nd universal research agreement in the world with the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic's goal, thank you, I'll accept that. Mayo Clinic's goal for us is that we become the nation's #1 pre-med school. That's pretty audacious. I wouldn't even want to make that statement. But with their support, their brand, their resources, and their partnership, we can make that happen. And guess what? If you bring the best pre-med students in the world to Eau Claire to study and to work with the Mayo Clinic, many of them will go on to the UW-Madison Medical School, go on to the Medical College of Wisconsin, or Mayo Medical School, and hopefully bring some of the best health care continuing to the state of Wisconsin. Mayo Clinic will be a partner in the construction of our new science and health science building. They have pledged $13.7 million for 10,000 square feet of dedicated space in that facility. And that will break ground, hopefully, with the legislators' ongoing support in 2024. So I could go on, and so I will. We've had 2 Rhodes Scholars in a 10-year period of time. No master's level school in the upper Midwest has ever had one. We've had 2 in a 10-year period of time. Chancellor Blank was kind enough to congratulate us because one of her students was competing for one of those scholarships as our student won. Tyo Sanders, right now, from rural Wisconsin, came from a single-parent family, African-American, first-generation college student, is studying at Oxford as we speak. We've also been recognized for being among the best schools in the country for veterans and for LGBTQ students. Our 450-piece, moving towards 500-piece marching band, the Blue Gold Marching Band, is the 2nd largest in the world. And after experiencing the Badger Band at Camp Randall, I would challenge you to come to Carson Park to see what a big band really sounds like. Yes, that was a challenge. All right, so let's go back to the pandemic. I know it was a lot more fun talking about the university. Think back 2 years ago when we were just beginning to have the full reality of what the pandemic was going to mean to us, individually, to our organizations, to our communities. You could probably recall back in the spring of 2020 what COVID was going to do to your world. But we had no idea really how to stop the spread and what was effective. Do you remember having to wipe down groceries when you got them back because we were convinced that was going to be how we were going to get it? Well, it was March 12th, 2020, that I announced a 2-week extension to our March spring break so that our faculty could completely retool the curriculum and move all of our classes online for the remainder of the semester. In Eau Claire and across the state, our universities closed our campuses, sending students home. Faculty and staff were at home redoing their work. Residence halls were shut down and we locked our doors. And then we all learned how to Zoom. You need to unmute, sir. You know, that's how I ask everyone who doesn't do that to contribute $1 to our campus pantry for students. But I want to take a moment to pay tribute to the thousands of K-12 teachers and university faculty and professors across Wisconsin who pivoted and did everything they could to help our students learn despite the pandemic. We had faculty get up in the middle of the night because their students were halfway across the globe. We are a global institution, and our faculty showed that commitment to those students who fled the United States before all the shutdowns happened. Many got stuck in the United States. Back to China, back to Europe, back to South America. We saw students sitting in their cars in our parking lot because they didn't have access to the internet in their apartments or homes. In fact, we invited students from the area high schools to do the same because we had good internet strength in our parking lots. 2020 spring was a difficult semester, and I know that our faculty were truly trying to put student learning and student mental health at the forefront of everything they did. Fortunately, in the fall of 2020, we were able to return to our classrooms, although we had to retool the campus. We had to take over all our ballrooms, our theaters, so that we had socially distanced classroom experiences. We removed 75% of the furniture from the campus. Think about the storage and the effort to do that. But I won't sugarcoat that experience, although we were back in session, and Eau Claire had more classes in person than any of the other UW schools because of the efforts we took, the technology that we had, and the partnerships that we were able to lean on. The pandemic hit our students very hard. Last year, we saw a 27% increase in the number of appointments for our counseling center, 24% increase in the number of students they saw. The three top issues we heard from students were anxiety, stress, and depression. We've added counselors, and that we now offer drop-in sessions and online counseling, which many students say is convenient and effective for them. In January, this past January, last month, you may have seen news articles announcing that higher education saw a drop of more than 1 million college students in the country. At UW-Eau Claire, we entered this academic year down about 4%. Some of it was accumulation of last year's losses in the freshman class and this year's loss in the freshman class. We were about average. Some saw bigger decreases, some not quite as few. But that drop for UW-Eau Claire meant $4 million in losses that continue to pile up. Lower enrollment has not been the only impact, though. When we closed our residence halls in 2020 in the middle of the March, we issued refunds for the students' housing fees, dining fees, and all the related fees. But that didn't mean that the institution still had to honor our dining contracts, pay the mortgages on our residence halls, and cover the staff costs that are associated with those. Fortunately, the federal government did step in as a financial partner to provide funding that helped our institutions and our students get through the pandemic. Since 2020, the UW system has received a total of $517.9 million. That's a lot of money from the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, or HERF. Half of those dollars were strictly appropriated to go directly to students. And that helps students not only cover their tuition costs, but many of our students are working in area restaurants and other retail outlets that were shut down during the heart of the pandemic. And so it really helped them replace wages. And in fact, many of those students were working on our campuses, and many of them we weren't able to keep on during the heat of the pandemic. By May 2020, more than 1,500 students at UW-Eau Claire received funds from those federal dollars. An additional 242 students received emergency funding through generous alumni donations to our UW-Eau Claire Foundation, which they contributed more than $600,000 to help with the things they needed. Sometimes it was the technology to be able to continue to be in class. Her funding helped us replace the lost revenue, provide student aid, but most importantly, to implement our efforts to keep our campuses safe and therefore keep them open. But it hasn't covered all of our costs. People say, well, you got all that money, what's the issue? Well, it hasn't covered all of the costs. We've documented more than $26 million at Eau Claire in direct costs to the pandemic. We received just over $22.8 million from the federal government, so that's helped a great deal. Unfortunately, some of these things, such as students who didn't show up last year as a freshman, we found out they didn't show up the following year either. So there's a whole group of students, at least for the time being, have decided not to go on to college. And that may be okay, and it may not be okay. That depends on the individual students. But it did disrupt our enrollment planning and did result in continuing losses to each of our institutions. In addition to the help that we had from our federal partners, UW system has made an incredible difference. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about former Governor Tommy Thompson. He was the right man at the right time to lead the UW system. As I've mentioned, there he is, with part of our marching band, only a small part. You know, UW-Madison, as the land grant research institution in this community, plays such an enormous role. And they've had access to the physicians and researchers at the School of Medicine and at the Public Health School. And they were able to implement testing and vaccinations for their students. And frankly, they lead the state with more than 90% of their students vaccinated. But the rest of the regional campuses don't have medical schools. And we frankly need to defend for ourselves. That's why I am especially grateful to Tommy Thompson and his contacts in Washington, D.C. as former Secretary of Health and Human Services. From his days in Washington, he's kept his friendships. In 2020, he set up a war room in the UW system and met daily with teams from each of the campuses to find out what the issues are and how he could assist us. He was truly a champion for keeping our campuses open. And by the time we reached this summer, we finally had the celebration where we could say we smashed COVID. By the start of fall 2021, that's this most recent fall, President Thompson was on our campuses celebrating the vaccination rates and also working to make sure we had continuing testing capacity. He's provided more than 350,000 tests just this year. And those tests not only help us keep our students safe, help us keep us in our classroom, help us stay in our residence halls with bi-weekly testing of all residence hall students, but they became a community resource as well. At UW-Eau Claire, we had 2 residence halls that we were planning to tear down to make way for that new science and health science building, and they became the location for pandemic students who've been tested positive or needed to quarantine because of it. We had no outbreak in any classroom, no transmission in any classroom on our campus in 2 years. We used seating charts, 6-foot distance, and students recorded where they were. And because of contract tracing, we can say that as close to a fact as we can. We continued to put 2 students in every room in our residence halls, and many of the Wisconsin schools did that, but many in Minnesota didn't. We had no outbreak in any of our residence halls. Now, students, picked up the virus, but it was usually when they were downtown in an off-campus house doing what students do. And and if a student in a residence hall got it, oftentimes the roommate did, or we quarantined them. But we never had more than 1 room on a residence hall floor with a positive case at a time. We took extraordinary efforts by working with public health. We actually took every other shower offline. That was not very popular. But the steam from the showers, could spread the aerosols of this. Our campus community worked directly as a community partner to make sure that we extended that testing into our community. Our faculty and staff volunteered in the dead of winter, January and February of last year, on their time to direct traffic on weekends and to help with the testing, and it got below zero for much of that time. We worked closely with our local health department, with Mayo Clinic, Prevea Health Systems, and others in the Eau Claire area to make sure that we could continue our weekly testing protocol to keep our campus safe. We also mounted an all-out campaign during the pandemic. You know, you have to win them over, and we've learned a lot during the pandemic of who people are willing to listen to, right? More trusted from a doctor, less so from a politician, and that continues to evolve. Well, we mounted our Blue Gold Flight Plan. There's kind of a saying among students, we don't have an official mascot, but the students have a mascot. I know it's a little odd. It's this blue bird. And their whole line is Blue Golds Fly Together. And that's been something that I've heard for a decade on our campus. And Blue Golds watch out for each other. We stick together. So we developed the flight plan. We had branded masks, posters everywhere, reminders asking students to take safe practices and hygiene. We have hand sanitizer outside literally every classroom on campus. We set up the teams of contract tracers I was talking about a little bit later, and those teams are still working today. They focus on our students and employees so that we can remove that large caseload from the local health department, which would otherwise have been responsible for that. We've worked very hard to keep all of our facilities safe, and we've been successful. I mentioned earlier that we have a unique collaboration with Mayo Clinic. It's almost 5 years old as of May this year. UW-Eau Claire became only that second university in the world to have this universal research agreement. Our faculty and undergraduate students work directly with Mayo physicians, researchers to tackle challenges that will improve patient care in Wisconsin. It's in that collaboration that they've invested more than $3 million so far in joint research, and they've put in writing that conservatively over the next 10 years they expect to invest $125 million in that joint research, and more realistically closer to $250 million. So I've mentioned they will be a part of this new science and health science building, but they won't be a 10,000 square foot box within a larger box. Instead, they are choosing to be on all 5 floors in the highest traffic areas, and they expect to have garage door type things opening up into their laboratories. They want to invite all of the faculty and students and those natural collisions to take place. I believe during my tenure at UW-Eau Claire, the partnership with the Mayo Clinic will be the most important contribution I make to that university. I relied on that partnership by talking to Dr. Rick Helmers, who's the CEO of Mayo Clinic Northwest Wisconsin. They have 5,800 employees. They have 11 hospitals, clinics, and medical facilities throughout northwestern Wisconsin. He and I were on the phone daily, and a little bit later, not as often, but daily, and he provided me access to the data from Rochester, Minnesota, where they could predict through their algorithms where these peaks were going to be. And it was very accurate going 28 days out, and that allowed for better, more effective university planning. It is through partnerships that these universities have licked this pandemic. In November of 2020, when the Delta variant was surging and our hospitals were full, you may have heard that Mayo Clinic converted ambulance bays into wards full of beds for patients. And although we did not have one student hospitalized due to COVID, we had no faculty or staff member who was working on campus hospitalized due to COVID. There were some who we'd given permission to work from home who later got it. I did not believe it was the right thing to do to risk breaking the medical system if we were to have an outbreak that caused hospitalizations. And it was based on that, not because we'd had an outbreak, that we sent our students home at Thanksgiving of 2020 through the holiday break in January. We didn't do that because the university needed to do it. We believed it was the right thing to do for the community. COVID has been a game changer. And the thing that rescued us was the COVID vaccine. Across the UW system, we knew that getting students vaccinated would be what makes this possible. And I see a little clock here, so I'm going to speed up. We were proud by being a partner with the health department and the UW system. UW-Eau Claire hosted only one of 3 FEMA vaccination sites in the state of Wisconsin, and we were the only ones to have it right on our campus. A special shout out to our nursing faculty and students and healthcare students who participated in giving those shots out, and for UW's system to help make that possible with grants. Next slide we're going to go on to. This graph says it all. The bottom blue graph shows positivity rate over time. Dr. Helmers said the safest place to be in the state of Wisconsin is on the UW-Eau Claire campus. I'm going to move to the video and skip the other delightful story, and we're going to see if we can make that work.
Now I'm taking out the CO2 portable sensors.
What started as a small experiment is now helping protect thousands of students going to class every day.
There's also masks up there. They're pretty cool.
We're very successful. We have on the order of 1 or 2 new cases of 11,000 students per week. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing.
Students at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire started this school year testing how well the air we exhale, or carbon dioxide, is circulating inside their classrooms. The better the ventilation in a room, the lower the chances that COVID-19 can float in the air and get students sick. This school year, the students have tested more than 24 classrooms. Their results led the university to act, supplying these air filters wherever the student researchers recommended.
We've now installed about 35 or 40 of the air purifiers.
We're all just happy to be on campus, and maybe that's the best outcome of all, right? Is that we've now managed to return to campus and do classes the way that we love teaching and learning.
But the team didn't stop at their own school.
We've even now gone to our sister campus in Barron County. The 2 rooms we found of most concern was one, a weight room, where young men and young women are working out hard and, again, expelling those aerosols. The other room we had very much concerns is, again, a choir room where people are standing and singing.
Protecting their fellow students was only part of their mission. They've now expanded their work to daycare centers.
And we really wanted to make sure that especially a vulnerable population of younger children is being safe. Parents don't have to worry about going to work and leaving their kids somewhere that they could bring a disease home.
After testing the daycare center rooms for proper ventilation, the students helped the children build COVID filter fans.
It's built with a box fan, some cardboard, duct tape, and 4 HEPA air filters. It pulls air from the back of the fan. It's facing up, so the air is coming out of the top. Pulls air from the back of the fan through the filters and clean air out through the top.
Something that's convenient, something that's not too complicated, but still ensures their health, and something that does so without breaking the bank.
These college students were surprised to find this work inspired more than the younger kids to learn more about health.
I think that's the best way you can also learn is by teaching kids.
I've definitely seen a change in myself from being more hesitant to having to leave my home in the morning to more excited about what I can learn in my classes.
A sense of security now even more important as the pandemic shows no signs of slowing down.
This isn't something that anybody knows the right answers to. So we're all learning together, and I think that is an incredible experience, however unfortunate that we have to go through it.
For The Race, I'm Alexa Liaco.
This was picked up by Scripps News Service, who came to Eau Claire to do the story. It appeared on 260 local news stations across the country. This is our reputation for undergraduate research in action. So I will wrap up knowing that our crystal ball does not work for COVID, and to return to the great philosopher Yogi Berra, it's not over till it's over. But UW-Eau Claire has successfully kept classes open, full seating, by the way, and full dormitories, and we've been safe. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Chancellor Schmidt. I think they want one question. Do they want one question? They want one question. I'll take one question from the floor, and then we need to adjourn. Ron?
Could you tell us, sir, a little bit about your enrollment, number of students on campus, diversity of enrollment, and where you may sit among the rest of the UW campuses in enrollment? How many from Minnesota come your way?
Yeah, all kinds of good questions. So we are about 11,000 students, about 10,000 undergraduate, about 1,000 graduate students. We are about 12% of our students are students of color. Part of our strategic plan is to be a national leader in equity, diversity, inclusion. One telltale evidence of the institution's commitment is typically if you have a predominantly white school with about 12% of the students being students of color, the faculty would be about 5% of color. And that's where you see protests on many campuses. Very proud at UW-Eau Claire, due to the provost, the deans, departments, that 24% of our faculty are people of color. And so, we're working on those leading indicators, and we're, I think, the only institution that I'm aware of in the country that in their plan, and we've shown evidence of it, at the end of our strategic plan in 5 years, and we've been working on this for 5 years already, we will close the opportunity gap. And we're already seeing where students of color are actually exceeding the student body as a whole in areas like study abroad, undergraduate research, and other opportunities that we use to benchmark that. The old line was that the faculty at UW-Madison sent their kids to UW-Eau Claire for the undergraduate experience so they could return to the campus for the graduate programs. Now, I have 3 sons, and one of my sons is a student at UW-Madison. That was not a slam on UW-Madison. It's a different experience, and every student's different, and they need to visit the campus to decide where best to go. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you again, Rotarians. Let's thank Chancellor Schmidt. And we are adjourned.